So I was just going to say, if we can start recording, we can get underway. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Oakland Mills Community Association Village Board of Directors. As always, we have two administrative items to get our meeting started. The first is to approve the minutes from our February 14th board meeting. Is there a motion to approve those minutes? I have a motion from Warren. Is there a second? I have a second from Bill. Any discussion of those minutes? Okay, all in favor of approving? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, 0. Thank you. Okay, next we have approval of tonight's agenda. Is there oh, Warren, did you have a oh, okay. You were just voting. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's board meeting? I see a motion from Lynn. Is there a second? I see a second from Jerome. Is there any discussion of tonight's agenda? Okay, all in favor of approving tonight's agenda? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, 0. All right, thank you. We are underway. Next up, we have resident remarks. Anyone wishing to make remarks to the board, please use the hand raise feature in Zoom or turn on your video or wave at me or do something, and I'll call you in the order I see you. And Zoom just added this great new feature that I'm really excited to try out. We actually have a clock now. I don't know if this was worth the exorbitant price we paid to extend our Zoom for another year, but ask Brigida, I got really excited when I signed on for the education meeting today and Zoom updated and I saw that I have this clock feature now, so everyone can see their 3 minutes without me having to interrupt and go 30 seconds. All right, so I have Joel Hurwitz and then we'll go to Paul Verchinsky after that. Joel, take it away and I'll start the clock when you start.
Hi again. I understand the chairs had a meeting with Delegate Feldmark the other day regarding HB 1024. So I don't know, Jonathan, if you were able to go there. I spoke to her last Friday and told her about the problems with the bill, and she said she was willing to heard a lot about the quorum issue and was willing to fix it, but didn't have an idea of how to go about doing that. And I also told her that part of the problem was that the bill implicitly or effectively amended the definition of members as it's used in the covenants, the articles of incorporation, the bylaws, the 30 documents for the 10 villages. And she says it doesn't amend the members. And I said, yes, that's the problem. It doesn't, but it effectively does. And to fix the quorum problem, you need to understand what a member is and how to fix the members and how the bill affects members. So there's a lot going on in this that nobody really has their head around. So I hope you'll have your letter done. One, you need a letter to the delegation to perhaps convince them in the next few days to withdraw it, but you also need a letter to the Environment and Transportation Committee that has to be uploaded between 8 and 3 on Friday for the hearing next Tuesday. And the questions I sent to you earlier, I now have 121 because Josh at the CA meeting last week added some more thoughts that I had. He questioned whether it violates the federal constitution for being a law affecting contracts that's prohibited by the US Constitution. That's an interesting problem I don't have an answer to yet. Questions were raised about whether every minor person could be put on a lease. So all your children. Because part of the problem that, again, the delegation and Delegate Feldmark don't understand is the definition of a lease in the law that already exists in the real property article is oral or written, express or implied, anything that creates a leasehold interest. Well, how are you going to figure that one out? And the link I had to the Hickory Ridge documents, they had an issue a decade ago about something that they decided wasn't meeting the requirements of a lease. Well, if it's express or implied, oral or written, is it or not a lease? Because now you have to figure out, does it create a leasehold interest? And no one has the answers to all these things. So for all that, I hope you will explain to everybody that this is a bill that shouldn't be done at this time. And Maryland Matters had an article about how they weren't going to pass a lot of the good bills this session because they don't have enough time. Well, here's a way of making more time. Stop wasting their time on a bad bill. So if you have any questions later, I'm here to answer.
All right, thank you. We'll talk. We have this on the agenda. We'll talk about it later. I was not able to make that Saturday meeting on a day's notice, but Bill was able to cover, and Bill and I talked about it extensively over the weekend. And we also do have a letter to the delegation prepared that everyone on the board saw via email last week. And we'll be reviewing that tonight. We'll get to that on the agenda under, I think that's our only old business item. Okay, I saw Paul with a hand up. Welcome back, Paul.
Thank you. I'd like to second everything that Joel has just stated. HB 1024 is a bad bill. It's poorly written, overly broad. And for the life of me, I can't figure out what problem it's trying to solve, if in fact there is a problem. The only thing that I see is that if it's passed, it only sets up a whole host of issues that would probably only be settled in court at some point because of the definitional issues and other issues. So, and I'm really concerned about the dilution factor that it would then make for property owners within our village. I mean, I think in most cases, when you're looking at HOAs, that the property owner is the voter in elections for a board. And this just opens it up to everybody. I mean, it just kind of boggles my mind what's going on here. So I hope that you do not support this bill and vigorously make that position known to our delegation, as well as to other legislators in the General Assembly, because they generally defer to the county delegation. And in this particular case, they should not be deferring. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Anyone else for remarks? All right. Well, this is a nice segue right into old business, because the old business is House Bill 1024, voting rights in Howard County. We basically came to a kind of a consensus position at our last meeting under new business, decided that I would draft something up. And I said I would keep it kind of short and sweet, not get into, sorry, Joel, not get into the 122 questions, because we really just want to make a quick point of, withdraw this thing, make it go away. So that's what I put together and sent out to all of you. And almost simultaneous to my sending out, Brigitte had sent that email with Delegate Feldmark's remarks to another village. And then within a couple hours of that, I was just signing off work, about to take my daughter to her violin lesson, when I got an email from Wild Lake Village saying, she's coming tomorrow, 9 or 3. What can you do? I could do neither on a day's notice, but fortunately Bill could do either. So Bill was able to attend the meeting with Delegate Feldmark. Bill and I talked Friday evening. I went over some of the talking points I would have had. Bill and I are very much on the same page. I guess even before we get to the letter, Bill, do you want to go ahead and kind of summarize, kind of give the summary you gave me Saturday night when we talked for everyone, so they're all up to speed on what happened at that meeting?
Sure, absolutely. Well, Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock, Jessica Feldmark, delegate, met with the chair or vice chair of 7 of the villages, along with the village manager of Wild Lake. And if I remember correctly, all 7 said that their boards were going to write letters to ask the delegation to withdraw the bill. Jessica was gracious to meet with us on short notice. She made 3 points. That one, she wanted to apologize for not consulting with the villages in the preparation stages of the bill. And she made it very clear and said, I apologize a couple times. She said that that was the first point she wanted to make. The second point she wanted to make was that she didn't want the villages voting based on real estate. She said, I feel we've gotten past that, that what I really want to have is one person, one vote, that's very much strongly what she was for. The third point she made is she wanted to know how the bill will affect the issue of quorum, how it will be defined, measured, et cetera, and then how the bill would be implemented. And the issue that I brought up from Oakland Mills' perspective was that our board had put together a draft. We discussed it. We put together a draft asking the delegation to withdraw the bill, that we, the board, would vote, final vote on that Tuesday night tonight, but that we had several issues with the bill, the issue of quorum, the issue of implementation, that it would be extremely difficult, and that there were other things that we had concerns with, but those were a couple of the main ones, and we had a little longer list in the letter that we would be sending. And many of the villages had similar comments, concerns, et cetera. There was a lot of discussion, which was very, very good. The meeting was almost an hour and a half. Everybody was very civil, very respectful. The discussion was very, very vigorous and very, very good. Everybody listened. And that going forward, Delegate Feldmark was asked, what are you going to do on the 7th? And she said, well, I'm not sure. You heard a lot from all of you that you have a lot of concerns about the bill. And that going forward, then what we board people who were there said, if you don't take the state action, it'll be good, because then it'll allow the villages to look at their election process, to look at your concerns, to look at how we might implement variations of this, that we all said there, we as boards, I said, I as vice chair of the Oakland Mills Village Board, we as a board have had discussions about our current voting laws and regulations, et cetera, and that we had concerns that, for example, a townhouse that's owner occupied gets one vote. The townhouse that's rented out gets two, one from the owner, one from the renter, so that there's some disparities there that we've questioned in the past, that this might be the impetus to get the villages to all look at what they have currently, and maybe continue the conversation among the village chairs to look at what could the villages possibly do that would be workable, and that if any of those solutions needed state legislation, that we could get back to her and the state, the delegates, the delegation members, to ask for help. So it ended, I'd say, on a positive note, that she was going to be meeting with the village managers, I think, this morning. And then she was going to be talking with the delegation about the bill, looking at the concerns involved, et cetera. Certainly, how do you define a quorum? How do you measure it? There was a lot of discussion about that in the meeting. So I don't know what will happen going forward. I do think that with 7 of the villages that were there, and there might have been 1 or 2 more, told people who were there that their village would probably feel similarly, that they'd like to have the bill withdrawn. So that's kind of it in a big nutshell. It was an hour and a half meeting, but those are some of the highlights.
Thanks, Bill. So, Lynn, and then Brigitte.
There. I just to throw in, just because I was just thinking about it as Bill was talking, and that it seems that we're focusing a lot on, not is this a good idea to start with, but how that it's really not a good idea, because how would we implement it? And it would be too hard, and it provides all of these logistical problems. And I think that the problem with it is more fundamental than that, in that it conflates what is an HOA, which is a private organization that people pay dues to, versus a political organization. The one person, one vote is great with Howard County. That's a political, that's our government. CA is not our government. It's an HOA when the very acronym means homeowners association. And I'm not opposed to having renters have a vote too, although I agree with what Bill said, that there are problems with having the renter and the owner. So one property can have more votes than another property just on the basis of somebody owns it and somebody's renting it. So that's a problem. That's something to be ironed out. But the idea that this is really kind of, oh, we're all for it, except we don't know how we would really implement it. It would be really difficult. And how do we define a quorum? I think that's a really narrow, how are we going to keep the Titanic from sinking, and how can we save the deck chairs, can make sure they don't get to the bottom of the ocean. I mean, I think that we need to look big picture with this. And I would like to know, my big question, which I would have hoped that somebody would have asked, and maybe they did. So is that what is really the purpose of this? If her purpose is one person, one vote, that's not what you get in a homeowners association. You get one property, one vote. And so that's my concern.
So I tried to address that a bit, because I threw something into our letter saying, as a homeowners association, we question why this legislation focuses only on Columbia's villages and their governing documents versus all Maryland HOAs. Why isn't it all HOAs? We're all HOAs governed under the same HOA law. So I agree with you there. In talking to Bill, and of course Bill can answer, I don't think anyone really got to the root other than one person, one vote. My takeaway from this, and this is just me personally, based on all that's been going on, over the past 2-3 years. And Lynn, you actually had a little slip of the tongue in what you said, because you said CA elections. There are no CA elections. Everyone's been focused on CA elections. What's going on with CA? What are they going to do with open space? They have all this land, all these facilities. Everyone should have a say in what they do. The villages have none of that. The village boards have none of that. We don't own anything. We don't control anything. The only legal authority we have are the same as the other HOAs. It's through the covenants, and our legal authority extends between us and the owners of each property. So my opinion, and I don't think we should get into this with the letter, maybe this is for that later discussion if we can get this withdrawn, but in my opinion, if she wants to democratize CA because of all their land and holdings and everything, then make everyone a member of CA. Let CA hold its own Columbia-wide elections, and let the villages be the basically the homeowners associations that we are, because we really don't have any authority to do anything that truly affects the way every resident lives. The only legal authority we have is covenants on a property, covenants on each property. That's it. That's the limit. So I actually think there's something bigger going on here. It does have more to do with CA, and because CA gets elected via the village elections, the villages are getting pulled into this. And I unfortunately, our letter does get into this a bit, because I think it's true. What this is ultimately going to do, because we've seen several things happening, it's going to cost the villages a whole lot of money to get a 10-person CA board. It has nothing to do with what the village boards do, because we can't do anything with all these issues that people are either for or against CA handling on behalf of its residents. We enforce covenants. Everything else we do is basically advocacy. We have no legal authority, no ownership of anything to make unilateral decisions as boards and run with them. So that's kind of my take on what's going on here. Now, she didn't say all that, but that's my take.
Right, I agree with you, and I wonder if this is some sort of a backdoor way of trying to restructure CA entirely. And I mean, I'd like it, when we always talk about transparency, I would like Jessica to be transparent about just what is it that she's after here. And it seems it's coming really, to my mind, it's coming really close on the heels of the whole Rouse Project thing. And then it feels like an assault on Columbia. And the fact that this is not oh, HOAs need to be, you know, really democratic and they all need to include anybody who might be renting or living there or, you know, has a business or is just passing through. But if we're going to do that, then that should be statewide. It shouldn't be just Columbia.
Okay, Brigida and then Bill. And I realized we said 15 minutes on this, but we said 20 minutes for old business. So I'll add 5 minutes when we run out of time.
So the village managers, they met this morning in preparation for their meeting with Delegate Feldmark on Thursday. So on Thursday, we'll meet with her. Bill, I had told you the wrong thing, so I apologize. But no, in fact, we met today to kind of get ourselves together. And everything that a lot of you are saying is what was discussed this morning. And I will add that the village manager from Owen Brown did speak with Delegate Terrassa as well. And, you know, just to kind of get her take. And apparently the bills were supposed to go hand in hand in some way, her bill regarding financial disclosure. But that, of course, did not pass the Howard County delegation, and this one did. So just a little more insight, you know, as to kind of what was happening. But like I said, a lot of the issues that are, you know, are being discussed here, just as Bill said, that a lot of the other boards, as well as the village managers, were bringing that forth to kind of ask on Thursday as well.
And Bill, you had your hand up again?
Yep, real quick to get to Lynn's question about why is this, what's the real purpose for the bill? No, we didn't specifically ask that directly to Jessica. She, in her 3 points, I think, made it fairly clear to us that she wanted to democratize voting within Columbia, was not for incorporating Columbia, but was very much for getting away from land-based voting to one person, one vote, okay? And then the third point is that during that whole discussion, when we began talking about taxation without representation issue, where one person said, I don't think a person who owns a house in a village but rents it out and doesn't live in the village, I think they should not have a vote at all. And a couple of us said, well, that's taxation without representation. They're paying the lien fee, but they don't have a say in the process. And I said, if you really want to get into taxation without representation, and if you really want to democratize Columbia, Columbia is the only HOA in Maryland where the lien payer is not a member of the HOA. And I think it's true nationwide because 4 or 5 years ago, I did a lot of research on out-of-state HOAs, the big ones, and I called 5, 6 different states, talked with the HOA people and told them, I asked them, if you're a lien payer, you're a member of your HOA. And they said, oh yeah, what do you mean? Yeah, sure. And I said, well, in Columbia, we're not. And they said, are you kidding? Yes. So I said, if you really want to democratize, pass the bill, the HOA rights bill, Bill of Rights for HOA, that will require all HOA lien payers to be members of the association, and therefore Columbia Association would go from 10 members to thousands. Okay, so I did that plug there too. Thanks.
Thanks, Bill. Jerome?
Yes, I just had a quick question because I missed the meeting last time. This bill, this is a Howard County bill, correct?
No, it's a state bill, but it's introduced by the Howard County delegation. So it's what the state would call a local issue. So basically, the General Assembly defers to the local delegation on bills like this.
I guess my follow-up question is: Are the other towns like Elk Ridge, Laurel, Ellicott City, are they also having to do this as well, or is this just a Columbia?
No, that's actually one of the points in our letter of, I don't even know how many, dozens or hundreds of HOAs there are in the state of Maryland. This focuses on 10, the 10 villages of Columbia. That's it.
Okay, that was my point. So it seems like Columbia is being targeted.
Yeah.
If it was all the places of Howard County, I do see problems with the bill, but if it was all the towns in Howard County, that'd be one thing, but it just seems like it's just focusing on Columbia. That was
Right.
the only thing I wanted to ask.
No, yeah, you hit the nail on the head with that. And anything else before I bring up the letter? I know we've all looked at it over email. I, made a couple of edits, which were basically just, fixing, oh gosh, I'm tired and I type words wrong, type edits. There wasn't really much in terms of content, but I'll bring it up, just one more time. Again, I'm trying to keep it, relatively short and sweet. I've seen versions of letters from other villages, from others that really go into a lot of detail. But I mean, quite honestly, my personal feeling on this was if we can say this is bad as concise with it. So that's what I tried to do here. So were there any comments or questions on the letter before we consider whether we want to send this to the delegation? And my thought would be, probably send to the delegation first to see what the delegation, what kind of response we have, from the delegation, and then basically tweak this a bit in preparation for the committee, should the delegation not ask for its withdrawal, to, basically tell the committee not to let this out of the committee. And hopefully you can see everything. My screen is really cluttered with stuff, but I think it's because I'm also hosting the meeting. I did double check with Brigitte, by the way, while you're reading. And, we're not, I know the quorum issue has come up, and I think another village has that in their letter. We don't really have it in ours. But one thing I did check with Brigitte today and confirm is we honestly don't know how we would continue to do vote by mail and electronic voting if we had to somehow verify who every adult who can vote in the village is, without having them show up with proper identification or somehow getting access to the, the Board of Elections database or something. We don't know how we would do it, which is why I made the point of how this might actually have the unintended consequence of sort of restricting who's able to vote rather than expanding, because you'd have to be available on that Saturday to come to the other barn. My understanding is that there are a couple of villages that do let all adult owners vote, and those villages don't do vote by mail or electronic. It's in person, because I guess they haven't cracked that issue either, even though their legal documents give the vote. Our documents, as Bill said, are a vote per, basically the vote per unit, the vote per unit you own or the vote per unit you lease.
So Jonathan,
Mhm.
there again, there's nothing in this. It's just that we don't know how we would implement it. It's not that we think this is wrong-headed, because having everyone who lives in Oakland Mills be able to vote is not the definition of what is an HOA. So this would fundamentally change what we are as an HOA. But I take your point exactly, Bill, about what you were saying, that we're not all members of CA as an HOA, or maybe Jonathan, you said that's true, but that's a whole kind of other issue. So I don't know what exactly I would put in there, but it conflates what is an HOA with what is what is what are the citizens of a city, or what are, they're, are not public governing bodies. Yeah, and it's conflating it. By definition, it is property based. That's what an HOA is.
Do you want me to put something in, Lynn, about how as villages, our only legal authority to, I don't know how to describe, our only legal authority to interact or really our only legal authority to affect to affect the lives of our residents is through the covenants on their properties.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I think that's
exactly.
conflated too. We don't like I said, we don't have
Yeah.
open space. We
Yeah,
don't.
we can't talk about open space. We can't talk about how people conduct themselves in public. We can't talk about, I mean, there are all sorts of things that we do not do that if we were the government, we could do.
I think we can just leave it at that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's good, just right there.
No, I think that's good too. I like that.
I mean, I get what you're saying, Lynn. I I do still think it's important to leave some of the implementation stuff in because I'm really concerned that she'll say, who cares? I'm still into democratizing this one vote per person. Oh, by the way, did you know you're either going to bankrupt us by making our elections so expensive we can't do anything else, or you're going to force us to go back to the olden days of everyone comes to vote in person, no more electronic voting, no more mail-in voting.
No, I
Is
think
that what you really want to do?
I think it's fine to have both things in there. I just didn't want it the way it's written and the way we've been
Okay.
talking about it. It's like, we think your idea is great, Jessica. It's just that we don't know how we would actually make it work. Give us a little bit of time to figure it out and we'll be behind you, because I'm not going to be behind this, no matter.
And I know there also has been some talk of, oh, well, maybe this is an opportunity to have the villages have dialogue and get more consistent, et cetera. And I mean, in some cases that might be good, but again, we are 10 independent associations. If this quest for consistency is about CA, there are other ways of fixing CA without basically breaking the villages.
Mhm.
And maybe truly, maybe that's what needs to be revisited after 50 some years, not how each village does its elections, but the relationship between CA, the villages, and CA and the residents of Columbia.
Yeah, that's why I said it seems like it's kind of a backdoor way of
Right.
looking at that without really just confronting it straight on.
Right. Bill, I see your hand. And I
Yes,
don't think I see any others.
just real quick to talk to the point of implementation. I did make it very clear, as did several people at the meeting, that implementation beyond the issue of quorum, the issue of implementation could be extremely costly and almost prohibitive to do logistically, that it would be extremely difficult and that we might have to go backwards in terms of voting instead of forwards, and that has not been addressed, and it's a major issue, the cost, logistics, et cetera. So I made that point very clear, and so did a few other people.
Before we
Okay.
vote, I have a question that I couldn't find the answer to. That I read that at the vote that the CA board voted, that it was to ask for this to be withdrawn. It was 6 against 4. Do you know, can anybody tell me who the 4 were who were for it? Just out of curiosity. I tried to find it out. I spent an unfruitful few minutes on.
I don't know.
No, okay. I mean, I'm confident that Ginny was against this. I think we can say.
Yeah, I just finished rewatching that meeting. Jenny was against it. Bill Santos was for it, and Andy Stack was for it. I mean, for this, against the letter in opposition. And I think the new guy from Longreach, his name is Josh, and I can't remember his last name. I think he was also for it, not for the letter in opposition, but I can't remember other ones, and don't hold me to that.
Okay. Yeah, I tried to find it hadn't been posted. The recording hadn't been posted yet.
Oh, I watched it on Friday.
Oh, okay. So you.
I think I still watched the live link.
The live link. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thanks, Rebecca.
Are any other questions or comments on this? Okay, is there a motion to go forward with this? I see a motion from Bill. Is there, I'll take a second from Jerome. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, 600. All right, so Brigida, can we work on, getting this on letterhead and getting it sent to all the right folks, please?
Yes,
Okay, thank you. And I'll email this to you because I made that change while we were sitting here talking.
okay.
And how do I stop the share? All right, there we go. All right, so I need to save that to email. Okay, next on the agenda is the board chair report. So this was late breaking. As I think I think it was on the 13th, something like that, 2 weeks ago, sometime since our last board meeting, the Board of Education formally passed and adopted its operating budget and capital budget, which now has to go on, to the county executive and county council. They passed it unanimously. They passed it with funding to begin the renovation and addition process on Oakland Mills Middle School in fiscal 24, next fiscal year, the fiscal year coming up, as well as renovation and addition to Oakland Mills High School to start in fiscal year 26. As soon as they did that, I start hitting the county site to look for the opportunities to weigh in with the county executive and county council. Of course, there was nothing because I was going to put that on the agenda once I had dates. And then, of course, today, Brigida gets an email announcing the second county executive citizens budget hearing will be held March 13th. So a day before our next board meeting. So I didn't even get a chance to put this on old business or anything. So I'm doing it under the board chair report. Bill, thank goodness, delivered our testimony in December. Normally what we do is, unless something has changed very substantially, we just reiterate that testimony by sending it into the county executive for his second hearing. As I looked at the testimony that Bill delivered, my suggestion would be that the only thing we might change is in the part where we talk about, our traffic issues on Stevens Forest Road. We throw in a little, thank you to the traffic department for the work they've started to do at Kilimanjaro, and, kind of encourage them to do more. So, we throw a little kind word in there as we're complaining about the condition of the rest of the road. Other than that, I would propose that we just, leave it as is and submit it again unless anyone feels something has changed substantially. And then the other thing I was talking to Brigida and the Education Committee about is this time around just getting word out to the community, telling them, hey, the Board of Education passed their budget. Oakland Mills Middle could start next year. Please, here's your first opportunity to talk to the county executive now that they've passed it. Please send something to him, sign up to testify, and tell him to do what he can to work with the council and fund this renovation that it so desperately needs. Any other thoughts on that? Go forth and conquer with that.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. Okay. And I kind of already did this in the board chair report, but as I think you saw, because I forwarded emails, or maybe you've encountered it, they have started working on the Kilimanjaro Stevens Forest intersection. That don't turn, right-hand thing with the line through it sign has gone up. It is in operation. It is confusing people, but hopefully they'll get there through communication or maybe a little bit of enforcement through warnings. I don't know. I did email each of the school administrators for all the schools that have walk zones there, which is Stevens Forest, Oakland Mills Middle, Oakland Mills High, to let them know what was coming, let them know how it would operate. One has actively confirmed that they're going to put it in their school newsletter for parents to see. The others did acknowledge receipt and thanked me, so I'm hoping that they're, planning to do something similar. And there's still a little bit of work to be done. That sign was supposed to go up over the weekend. And the reason it went up early was traffic decided that if they threw it up over the weekend, where they're basically down to like a bare bones emergency staff and it malfunctions, that could be a problem. So they wanted to put it up during the week where they had staff there to monitor it. So sure enough, when I drove through there, I can't remember if it was Thursday morning or Friday morning, I drove through there. They actually had traffic staff with their truck parked on the median at Kilimanjaro and Stevens Forest, observing everything. And then I came through there again about an hour later, and Chris Etoff was standing there on the corner just watching it and watching the traffic patterns and
Mhm.
the pedestrians, and actually watching as people ran through it, even with pedestrians in the crosswalk. So it's, come on, people. It's not that you don't understand the sign. If someone is in the crosswalk, you don't go, but people are still doing that. So maybe some, like I said, maybe some enforcement and warnings are also due at that intersection. Now that there is something that clearly makes you stop. It's not yield, it's stop. You cannot go when that sign is on. Warren, were you going to say something, or are you kind of thumb up
Yeah,
agreeing?
no, I brought this up at the public space meeting, and the two guys that live in the area, they said, oh, people have been making right turns, and doing exactly what you said for years, and they don't think anything will change.
Mhm.
They don't think that, so they were very cynical of the whole process, so we'll
Well,
see.
I have heard some cynicism. One good thing happened this morning. I was outside of my house, and someone pulled up and rolled down their window, and it was the mother of the child who was hit in that crosswalk last year.
Oh,
And she said, "If you and the village board had anything to do with that, I just want to thank you." So that made me
wow.
feel good, because it's progress. People are noticing that it's there. People need to obey the law. We might need to, talk to our law enforcement officers about encouraging people to obey the law now that it is the law there. I mean, it always was the law to yield to pedestrians in the
Right.
sidewalk, but now it's stop. It's not even yield, it's stop. There's no interpretation. There's no judging whether the pedestrian, there's enough space between you and the pedestrian that you can go. If the sign's lit, you can't go. So that should be like a no-brainer to enforce. All right, and then the last thing I had was I've just noticed that Grand Sabor at the Village Center, when we last checked with Klein, they said it was just a few weeks from opening, but that was like a few months ago now. So I have asked Brigida to reach out to the property manager to see what's going on there. And Brigida, I don't know if you were able to get to that today, but it is on the radar. It's not unnoticed that it still hasn't opened, but the signs are still up.
So with that, if you don't mind me stepping in, I did call. I've been emailing them. Actually, it's my third email because I've asked them other things. I've emailed both the two people, the names that Sandy had requested. I even went to the website to ensure that they were still there and it was the correct information. Unfortunately, I have not received anything back. So I've sent another email under high importance and left another phone message. So when I do hear something, I certainly will let you know.
All right, if you don't, I'll go back to their VP. I mean, he had basically told Sandy, oh, you can work directly with the property manager. No need to bother me. But if the property manager is not responsive, I'll go back up to him and say. So I would say if you don't hear anything by the end of this week, send me the list of outstanding items and I'll get in touch with him and send it to
Okay.
him.
Okay.
And that's,
Yeah, Jonathan? I was
yes.
going to say, maybe you should get in touch with him anyhow, because if the property manager is being that unresponsive, that's not a good sign going forward.
Yeah. And it all started off so well too. And he was
Yeah.
very responsive. Yeah, if you send me the list, I'll get in touch with him.
Okay.
And that's everything I have, unless there are any questions for me until I get to the Education Committee report, some of which I already covered in the budget. All right. Well, absent Ginny, who is at a CA affair, we're going to go right to the village manager report and the unfortunate financials.
Well, as you should have received in your attachments, there was the third quarter financials along with the variance memo. And I am going to make my very first attempt at sharing a screen. Oh, I don't know what that is, but
You did it.
I did it. I just don't know how to make it take up the whole screen. Wait a minute. Bear with me for a moment. Okay,
There we go. I see it all.
okay. First hurdle taken care of. So, just to go through a couple of the things are still, there was a large variance in second quarter as well. So some of it is the same. The revenue leases and rentals, that's always a good thing. We certainly had a larger number than was expected. And with the payroll benefits, as Sandy mentioned before, they will likely balance out by the end of the year. Kind of the uptick in leases and rentals is higher janitorial expenses. They kind of go hand in hand. The fees are legal fees that have been incurred that were outside, larger than what was expected. The business expenses were less because we're still meeting virtually and there hasn't really been any business gatherings. The donations contributions were certainly not outside of our budgeted amount, but the way it was budgeted per quarter, within this quarter, basically all of them were distributed in the third quarter. So we were larger because it was all distributed in one quarter. Again, the taxes will balance out by the year end, most likely. Utilities overall have been much higher, as I'm sure you all are aware that utility rates went up and they've been higher for each of our neighborhood centers as well as the other barn. Not doing anything different. As a matter of fact, we haven't even been running the fireplace or anything. So the repairs and maintenance, we did have to have a lot of costly bathroom sinks. Little frustrating, but we did have some very costly repairs in that regard. Door repairs, and then of course, old equipment equals general wear and tear. And this kind of, the language is kind of tricky, so I read it over several times, but of course, I've worked with the accountant, the furnitures, fixtures, and equipment. It was overestimated for basically for the year for the quarter, but it was underestimated for the depreciation because of the way the budget from FY 2022 was purchased and it carried into FY 23. So those are the largest variances. This, of course, was put together with our bookkeeper and our accountant, and they walked me through a lot of things, a lot of great explanations. So, but this I put together all on my own. So I've learned a lot, but please let me know if you have any questions and I will do my best to answer them.
Any questions for Brigida? All right, let me, I need to adjust my screen here so I can see everyone for a vote. By the way, the really bad news is coming. This doesn't reflect the worst of the news, but we'll save that for the closed session. I mean, it'll be open discussion in the fourth quarter, but anyway. Is there a motion to approve the third quarter financials? Okay, I see a motion from Bill. I'll take a second from Rebecca. Any further discussion? All in favor? 6-0-0. All right, thank you. Nice job, Brigida.
Thank you. Sorry, that's my telephone ringing, but now that is out of the way, a few other things that have been going on aside from everything. We did hire a new rental and facility coordinator. Her name is Ashley Jacobs. She comes to us with a lot of energy and excitement, and I'm really excited to have her start. She did have to give her last job a large time frame of notice because she works with a lot of different clients. So she had to distribute them amongst other of her coworkers, but she will be coming in on Friday to do all of the paperwork, and we're going to set up a training schedule part-time. And she will officially start full-time on March 27th, which is a Monday, which is great because our everything kind of upticks with rentals towards the end of April. So that's very good. I am still looking for an event coordinator. The deadline for the application is this Friday. So we will see what we get, but we hope to have somebody in place in the next month because of course, events start up in the springtime, and then we want to start planning for the festival. So we did have the Changing Columbia event take place at the other barn yesterday. It was very wonderful. Bill was there, I was there. It was very informative, and it was, Bill, I want to tell you that I did try that restorative yoga this morning. I was not very successful, but I did give it a try, but it was really great. And they had about 50, I'm not very good at judging numbers, but it was about 50 people in attendance, and they were very happy with the facility and with, you know, all the help that everybody gave them from our staff. And a lot of people hadn't been in the other barn. I always like hosting things like that because they haven't been to the other barn, and they're always so complimentary. And they said they definitely like to have another event there. So that was exciting. We do have a couple of events. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
I was just wondering, could you say again what the event was that you had?
It's their Changing Columbia series. And this one focused on a new way of looking at wellness.
Okay.
They're trying to go to all the different villages and different venues for the series and hold it at different locations to not only, you know, have the series itself, but also to kind of highlight the different venues in the villages.
Okay, thank you.
We do have a Lively Arts is coming back on March 17th. And on March 11th, there is the Oakland Mills local leadership team is hosting a community dinner, which I will be going to kind of reach out and see what's going on there. And I think that's everything. Everybody has been, again, really great, helping out until we fill those additional positions, and everybody has just been stepping up. Amy has been amazing with Amy. Can you tell me where this is? I mean, it's just been great. So I'm really appreciative of everybody's help.
All right, any questions for Brigitte on operations? All right, thank you. We're going to go to committee reports. Lynn, anything architecture?
Not now.
Okay. Education, the committee met tonight. We talked about the budget and getting the word out, you know, for people to tell the county executive, hey, the Board of Education did a great thing on this. We talked about the new walk zones now that the Board of Education has voted to change school start times. So high schools will be starting later now. And to make this cost neutral, they've expanded walk zones. So walk zones for high schools, I think, are going to go from 1.5 miles to 2. I think middle schools are going to go up to 1.5. And I forget how the elementary schools look. We don't know the exact start times for our schools, because for the elementary schools and middle schools, that's going to be determined before the next school year starts. But high schools will be starting later than they do now by, I think, about a half hour or so. And then we talked about the traffic signal and the other traffic issues at the schools. So a lot of stuff I already covered in my board chair report. So that was the kind of the quick summary of the Education Committee meeting tonight. And now I'll send it over to Warren for public space.
Thanks, Jonathan. So we had our meeting at the Elk Ridge Public Library, which is very cool. It's very nice. It's very new, and it's got this fantastic DIY section
Mhm.
where you can get stuff, wheelbarrows, or I don't know, baking stuff or glass cutters, you name it. It's got it. It's well worth a visit. Anyway, it was the night for the Active Transportation Open House. It's Howard County. And so I learned some interesting things. Number one, Howard County's placed a pedestrian counter at the pedestrian bridge. And so we will now see how many people ride bikes or walk, or how many people are actually using that bridge. I mean, I go across that bridge probably twice a week, 3 times a week. I have never been there. I've never crossed it where I haven't met somebody or passed somebody on that bridge. It's very, very busy. So I'm really interested to see how busy it is. And we'll be able to get, starting in March, they'll start collecting that data and posting it. I don't know. He didn't say when they'll post it, but I assume either the end of March or the beginning of March, they'll start posting that information on the Howard County Transportation website. So that'll be interesting. The one thing I did see there was they had a map showing the scooter traffic, that, you know, the scooters are gone now, but the scooter traffic, and the highest place for the traffic is from Oakland Mills to downtown. That connection was solid red. So that's the most business, or most scooter traffic. So I think that just indicates how many people use that connection to downtown. The other thing that's really good news, I talked to David Cookson, and I think he's an engineer, but he's with Howard County, and he's in charge of the priority letter. So every county writes a transportation priority letter, and they tell the state the things they want, particularly to transportation things for state roads. And I asked him about the crosswalk at Red Branch Road and the multi-use path there. And he said that is on the letter. It's finally in the letter. And he says, or I think it is. So I said, how do I make sure it is? And he said, write me a note. So I've sent a note to just about everybody I know to ask him to double check that. So, and I sent him a note as well. And that's actually, I don't know if the board wants to do it as well, or Jonathan, if you want to do it, but it's in my report, public space report. It's D Cookson at howardcountymaryland.gov. Just tell him you want to hope Oakland Mills will, or Howard County will support the Red Branch Road crosswalk and the multi-use path. And I could send you all the verbiage I had as well.
I was just going to say, Warren, yeah, if you send it, I'll, tweak a few words so it's not a carbon copy, and send something as well.
You bet. And anyone else that feels inclined, I can send it to you as well. So, but it's very exciting news. So it sounds like we're that step closer. The other thing I learned was that the South Entrance Trail, I thought it was supposed to start in 2023, this year, but I think the project engineer was a little over enthusiastic, and the Bruce Gartner, who's the head of transportation, was like, no, it's 2024, so let's not rush things. So my bad. The other things we talked about at the meeting, the public space meeting, was so Bike Hoco is doing corrals. We're going to try to do 10 corrals. I mentioned this last week for in Columbia, or in Howard County. And we've worked with the county and downtown Columbia about a rewards program to encourage people to ride bikes. So we're getting businesses to provide discounts for people who ride bikes and have a sticker on their helmet that they bring into the establishment. And it could be like, one place is giving free coffee, that kind of thing. So I'm hoping to talk to the Oakland Mills businesses and see if they'll offer some discounts to encourage bicycling. Okay, Bill, this is for you. You said you had a problem at Stevens Forest and Broken Land walking across the road. So that's not a regular place I go, because it's on the other side of town for me. But I did go there last week and I checked it out, and I've ridden my bike across it a few times. Mostly you drive your car, but it is pretty scary to walk across. But actually, when I pulled up, I actually saw someone push the button and come across. So of course I talked to them, and she was running, and she says, yeah, I run across here a lot, like 4 times a week or something. And I said, have you ever had a problem? And she says, no, never. And then she goes, well, just once some guy tried to make the light and he almost hit me. So, I mean, it only takes once to get, to die. So, but that's what I was thinking. But I brought it up at the public space meeting, and there was 4 of us. 2 were very much against having it be no turn on red, because they said the traffic is really bad, and I hadn't really thought about that. And they were very much opposed to it. I think you'll see there might be a lot of people that use that frequently. They might be strongly against that and have that same kind of opinion. But they did say they would welcome. Yes, both of you. Jonathan, I guess.
I was just say, Warren, actually the note, it probably shouldn't be a no turn on red, because that doesn't fix the pedestrian issue. Because the pedestrians are coming across when the light's green. We actually need something to stop people from turning when it's green and there are pedestrians in that crosswalk.
Okay.
Because when that light's red, Broken Land has the green, so there shouldn't be any pedestrians in the crosswalk anyway. And that's actually the other thing they did at Kilimanjaro. They took away the no turn on red, so that traffic can flow on red if it's safe to do so that people are less anxious to go as soon as that light turns green.
Okay. All right. My bad. I didn't get that. Yeah. Bill.
Exactly what Jonathan said, that the key would be southbound Stevens Forest can turn right on red, no problem. And that then when they have a green light and there's a pedestrian in the crosswalk, that right turn becomes a red light to the right turn people, or something like that. So that when someone's in that crosswalk coming across, and I've got a green light southbound Stevens Forest, I can't make a right turn if somebody's in that crosswalk, is in effect what I'd like to see. And I don't know exactly how to work that out with the traffic engineers.
So
so
let me just say this. What we came up with was, why don't we have a traffic engineer look at it and come up with an idea? So we would basically, I'm come from the IT world. I think of everybody as users or whatever. And so we're users, people that are walking, and we'll say, this is the problem. How can we fix it? As opposed to actually providing a solution. So, and that's what the group pretty much encouraged us to do. I'm not sure what that step forward would be, but we should reach out to the traffic engineers and try to get them to come up with a solution.
I think that's a good idea, Warren. One thing I would add was, if the traffic engineers are looking for, or you're looking for a potential solution to discuss with the traffic engineers, They've done it further up Broken Land Parkway at Broken Land and Little Patuxent, in downtown by the mall and the multi-use path. They've done exactly that. They've erected dedicated right turn signals for the right turn lanes that operate separately from the red and green balls that let you go straight or turn left.
So wouldn't that actually make there be less? I don't know exactly how they work, so I'd have to look at it, but does
So-
it extend the time that you're stopped?
So what it actually does is, yes, it extends the time the right turn lane is stopped while it lets the other lanes go through so that pedestrians can clear. So it's kind of similar to what we have at Stevens Forest and Kilimanjaro, except it's a light instead of a sign. That for whatever reason, that's the implementation they've done on Broken Land, whereas at Kilimanjaro they've done that sign.
So do you think people would people wanting to make that right turn, would they have to sit there longer? Because
No, I don't think so, Warren. It would only be when they're pedestrians wanting to cross,
right.
which is most of the time there are not pedestrians in that crosswalk. So right turn on red is fine and right turn on green is fine. It's only when there are pedestrians in that crosswalk, southbound Stevens Forest has a green light, which means, hey, I can turn right on green. State law says when there's somebody in that crosswalk, you've got to wait for that person to crosswalk. And unfortunately, a lot of drivers don't. So it's basically saying, hey, you can't turn right on green if somebody's in that crosswalk. Once they're out of the crosswalk, you're fine. So I don't think it would back up right turn traffic at all on Stevens Forest. The vast majority of the time, not at all. When somebody's in the crosswalk, it will back it up momentarily.
So the other thing that was commented on, and what you say is a good point, Bill, thank you, was a lot of people that are making a right-hand turn, especially on red, are actually looking to the left. So they're not looking at the crosswalk, and that's a problem. And I don't know how to solve that, but maybe a traffic engineer could.
And also too, what happens is I'm southbound Stevens Forest, okay? I want to make a right-hand turn. And that signal works that the traffic over by Stevens Forest Exxon going north, they have the green light. And I'm here waiting to turn right southbound, and I've got traffic coming at me. But once they clear, then I can turn right on red. And too often, they're watching that oncoming traffic. As soon as that last car goes in front, they turn right. They're not looking.
Exactly.
If anybody's there. And then if the oncoming traffic clears and it's right at the end of the red light for southbound and southbound gets a green, they go right away and they don't look because I've got the green light, I'm going. And whoops, there's a pedestrian there, okay? And that's the issue. And to me, one of the best ways to get people to understand it is ask them to use the crosswalk. Ask them to start southbound Stevens Forest at the cul-de-sac on the right before the intersection. Walk from there down to Stevens Forest Exxon and then walk back up and see how you feel about it. And do it particularly between 4 and 6 o'clock at night. Because the traffic's heavy. And if you're coming up there at that time, it's tough. Or if you're going down, it's tough. So ask them to just do that. Everybody just, walk it, see what you feel about it, etc. And you do it often enough, you'll realize, hey, sometimes you're taking your life in your hands. And that's why the last year or two, I wear a bright orange penny. I keep my pocket, put it on to cross, take it off when I've crossed. But just to ask the people, use the crosswalk yourself, see how you think about it.
So when I was there, I thought about doing it, but I didn't want to risk my life. So I decided not to. But I did. Fortunately, I had somebody doing it so I could watch them. I don't know. All right. So I will try to reach out to someone at the traffic engineer and see what happens. Thank you.
All right.
I had one other thing, and that was soil stockpile. Thank you for that wordage, Brigitte. I would just call it a pile of dirt, but I went and saw it. It's very quickly being disappearing. So I saw lots of trucks moving it. So just a couple, last week, I guess. So I guess I don't know where it is now, but it's disappearing quickly. And we have a Zoom meeting on the 21st next month. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Warren. All right, since we have a closed session coming up, we're going to do the bulletin board now so that, I mean, anyone who's attending who wants to wait in the waiting room for the outcome of the Zoom meeting, the closed meeting, you're welcome to, but we figured we get rid of all the open business other than announcing the outcome in advance of the closed. So Amy, do you have anything for bulletin board?
No.
All right, Rebecca? Jerome? Warren?
No.
Lynn?
No.
Bill?
Real quick, last Thursday night, February 9th, Rebecca and I went to the CA. Was it the week? Yeah, we didn't go to the 9th. CA, we went the week before, but CA on the 9th had the meeting and voted to have a playground pilot study done in one village and then use that hopefully to replicate throughout Columbia. The motion passed, I think it was 10-0. And the issue is that the village was not specified in the motion. So I emailed to Ginny. I said, Ginny, who will decide it and when, what villages is used for the pilot? So I have not heard back yet.
Thanks, Bill.
Bill, I'm meeting with Dennis about a different issue on Friday, so I will ask him. Dennis and Nick, actually.
Lynn?
I just wanted to amend my bulletin board, and that was to say that Rebecca had a very nice piece in the Meriwether Post.
Yes.
It was excellent, very well done.
Thank you. I've gotten a lot of feedback. A lot of people are really excited, Bill, so be prepared for participation.
Brigitte?
No.
All right, and I've got nothing. Okay, so we do need a closed session to, the purpose of the closed session would be consultation with staff, personnel, consultants, attorneys, or other persons in connection with pending or potential litigation. Is there a motion? Is there a motion to go to closed session? All right, I'll take Lynn as a first. I'll take Bill as a second. All in favor? All right, 600. So I'm going to fill out a form. Brigitte, if you can put all non-board members in the waiting room while I start filling out this form. All right, so the time was 8:12. The motion was, who did I say? Was it Lynn first, then Bill, or Bill first, then Lynn? I've already, Lynn and then Bill. And everyone voted in favor. And it's consultation with staff. Closed session is beginning now, 8:13 p.m. Okay,
I stopped the recording, correct?
good. Yes.